Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating piece of research. This is an explainer of the 2018 paper by Jamieson, Crum, and their colleagues titled Optimizing Stress Responses with Reappraisal and Mindset Interventions, an Integrated Model. It was published in the journal Anxiety, Stress, and Coping, and honestly, this research is going to fundamentally shift how you think about your body's response to pressure. Here's a quick roadmap of what we're going to cover. We'll start with the problem with stress, then move into challenge versus threat, followed by reappraising stress arousal, the stress mindset, and finally, we'll wrap up with integrated stress optimization. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the problem with stress and why we get it so wrong. You know, it makes complete sense that we view stress negatively, right? I mean, from a really young age, we're taught that it ruins our performance and we basically need to eliminate it at all costs. Just look at this staggering statistic from Brooks's 2014 study. 91% of people facing a major test or public speech believe that remaining calm is literally the only way to handle it. We overwhelmingly think that trying to force ourselves to relax is the secret to success, even when we're actively sweating through our shirts in pure dread. But here's the thing, that belief actually contradicts our very biology. As Hans Selye, the pioneering researcher who actually coined the term stress, famously put it, complete freedom from stress is death. A painful blow and a passionate kiss can be equally stressful. Think about that for a second. Stress is simply the body's non-specific response to any demand. It is a biological constant. The authors of our paper argue that stress isn't a disease to be cured, it's an opportunity to be harnessed. Move into Section 2, challenge versus threat, and the biopsychosocial model. So how exactly does our body physically process these demands? Well, the biopsychosocial, or BPS model, boils down to a pretty simple equation. Do your perceived resources outweigh the situational demands? If the answer is yes, you experience a challenge response. Your sympathetic nervous system activates, which leads to increased cardiac output. Basically, your heart efficiently pumps more blood to your brain and muscles, and you recover super quickly. But if your perceived demands outweigh your resources, you fall into a threat response. This activates your HPA axis, which is your body's primary stress response system, and dumps cortisol into your system. This restricts your blood vessels, cranks up vascular resistance, and totally tanks your performance. Both of these states feature high arousal, but biologically speaking, the differences are night and day.
All right, Section 3, reappraising stress arousal, how we turn that arousal into an actual asset.
If a biological threat response is debilitating, but a challenge response empowers us, how do we intentionally flip the switch in the moment? Well, the answer is beautifully captured in a couple of specific lab experiments detailed in the paper. First, check out Jamieson's 2012 study. Participants faced this highly stressful social evaluation called the Trier Social Stress Test. The experimental group was taught to reappraise their stress, literally viewing their racing heart as a tool. The control group? They were just told to stay calm or given no instructions at all. And the measurements were astounding. The reappraisal group showed a pure challenge cardiovascular profile. We're talking greater cardiac output, far less vascular resistance, and they even showed less visual vigilance for threatening cues. Now, look at the 2010 GRE study. Students about to take a standardized math test were assigned to either a reappraisal or control condition. Researchers measured their salivary alpha amylase, a protein that tracks arousal. The reappraisal group had elevated levels of this arousal marker, and the real-world effect was massive. They significantly outperformed the control group on the quantitative mass section, showing an effect size with a Cohen's d of 0.82 in the lab. And get this, they maintained a strong advantage on the actual GRE months later.
Now, you might be wondering, what exactly were these students told? Actually, scratch the idea of some week-long meditation retreat. It was literally a short-form, paragraph-length instruction that ended with this direct quote from the study. Simply remind yourself that your arousal could be helping you do well. That's it. That simple cognitive shift from my anxiety is hurting me to my arousal is fueling me profoundly optimized both their biological markers and their test scores. Which brings us to Section 4, the stress mindset, a domain general belief. This concept shifts our focus from a situation-specific appraisal, like what you do right before a math test, to a much broader, overarching psychological theory. The researchers define a stress mindset as your core belief about whether stress has enhancing or debilitating consequences on your life. Unlike reappraisal, which is kind of an on-the-fly tactic when your heart starts pounding, a mindset is your domain general default lens. And the impact here is massive. For example, the authors point to a study of nearly 1,400 eighth graders. It turned out that possessing a stress-is-enhancing mindset successfully buffered those kids against the psychological distress of adverse life events, showing a significant effect size and accounting for a robust portion of the variance in their overall positive well-being. To really wrap our heads around this metacognitive concept, let's look at a metaphor right out of the text, the novice skier. Picture beginners staring down a terrifying, icy, steep slope. Their heart is pounding out of their chest, right? Palms are sweating. By definition, their demands are incredibly high and their resources are low. They're going to experience a biological threat response. But if they have a stress-is-enhancing mindset, they still expect a positive outcome. They embrace pushing their boundaries. They expect to grow. That overarching mindset helps them navigate the sheer terror of the moment, creating a completely different, far more adaptive experience compared to someone who thinks the stress of the slope is purely debilitating. And finally, Section 5, Integrated Stress Optimization, basically the ultimate life hack. The authors of this paper didn't just want to review these two tools in isolation. No way. They proposed a novel idea, merging them into one unified, incredibly powerful strategy. It's a three-step intervention. Step 1, acknowledge the stress. You aren't denying its negative realities, but you are welcoming its positive aspects. Step 2, approach the stressful situation. Utilize your overarching mindset that stress can actually enhance your life. And step 3, optimize the stress responses in the moment using reappraisal. Explicitly tell yourself to use that physical arousal as a resource to actively cope. Take a look at this brilliant flowchart. It illustrates the entire hypothesized process. Let's walk through it from left to right. On the far left, we're combining the general elements of the stress-is-enhancing mindset with the specific in-the-moment elements of stress reappraisal. Moving into the middle, we see that this combination is literally altering our internal mechanisms. It reduces our attention to negative stimuli, pushes our resource-to-demand ratio higher, and spikes our cardiac efficiency and anabolic hormones. And finally, on the right, all of this feeds forward into incredible, tangible outcomes. Boosted academic performance, massively improved well-being, and even fewer doctor visits. It's a real game changer. It's a complete paradigm shift, isn't it? We have spent our entire lives trying to calm down, trying to just breathe away the very biological arousal that evolution gave us to conquer our biggest challenges. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. How will you use your stress arousal to conquer your next major hurdle? Stop trying to relax and start optimizing. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.